Hello everyone, welcome to another Daily Muppet where I cover the latest news on transfers, manager, and all things that are happening at United. So briefly, I'm going to touch on the manager situation and then talk quite a bit about transfers as I have a fair few updates on the latest in terms of targets for the forward, but especially the midfield situation and what United intend to do this summer. So manager-wise, obviously everybody knows by now that there's been a meeting with Erik ten Hag, and it is said to have gone very well. United were impressed with his presentation, impressed with really all aspects of it. I think he did himself a very good showing. There's different reports about what actually went on in the meeting, but it's been put out pretty clearly that the club have said it has gone well. And I think that that's a good thing. If it had gone very poorly, that would make the manager situation a lot different and difficult for something to actually get resolved. I think for all of us, the priority is to get this manager situation sorted so that United can move forward into summer and ahead, knowing what comes next. There's a huge rebuild to be done. And we'll talk about the transfer targets in a moment. And so it is really relevant that they get a manager sorted and in as quick as possible, or at least obviously agreed and ready to come in summer, because there's so much to do here and there's a lot of decisions to be made on a lot of different topics. So what I heard on that, if I can give any more detail that may or may not be more detail, but may confirm a few things, is from Ten Hag's side, that it went well, that there's still regular contact, that he wants the job, that Van der Sar is helping with the club-to-club part of the negotiations and discussions. We actually tracked, on Tuesday, we were tracking flights in the Discord, and I think we were able to track the flight for the meeting as it happened on Monday. But it's obviously impossible to completely confirm that that flight was the answer. The other thing Ten Hag's side did say is they were confident, or they were expecting, that talks with other sides were happening, whether in person or, over however other means they might do so, but they were confident in presenting the best case they could and think they did the best job that they could possible to earn the job. So that's where it stands. You've got some reports from Ducker that of just, potential difficulties with getting Poch out of PSG and the costs that are associated with it. So there's not much else except that. And then it's been fairly quiet since then. We'll see what else comes out now. I think it's important to pay attention to whatever The Athletic put out next, as they've said virtually nothing at the moment. If Ten Hag's getting the job soon, it should be very straightforward, and the next media brief should relate it to, say, Ten Hag being offered the role and being concluded at the end of the season. I don't think they'll have any sort of official announcement on a manager mid-year, but something like, Ten Hag is expected to get the job and will be offered the role to be finalized at the conclusion of the domestic season. So I think that's the story you could expect next before things move further. It sounds like they still want to get it done over the break. There was a very confusing part where in Paul Hurst's original article it said they were going to look at and talk to other candidates over the coming months, which is a long time. The article was then revised and completely changed, and it's very odd because the same thing happened with James Ducker's article. They both put out articles, and then now those articles look totally different. They say totally different things than they said originally. It's very odd. I recommend you take a look and try to read them, because I don't know why that happened, but it's just a strange thing. It does not say anymore that it's months, so I hope that is not the case, because that would be kind of crazy. All right, so moving on to transfers. First, I want to talk about Araujo again. There's some good reports today from Moy Lorenz of ESPN, who is actually a very good source for anything Spanish and South American. United think he's great. They think he's fantastic. He says that there's another meeting in terms of offering another deal. It looks like Barcelona can only offer up to something like 80 to 100 $100,000 per week, according to him, whereas United and Liverpool are potentially looking at somewhere in the range of 175 per week. So if Barcelona cannot up their offer and it gets rejected in the next meeting within the next few days, I think this is one you've got to watch. You've got to look at. United like him. It's documented now, some good sources saying it, and I'm still on that. Moving on to forwards, I've heard that we're not looking at Richarlison seriously. He's probably going to leave Everton, but I don't think it's United. Darwin Nunez, I've been talking about him a lot. That one is very messy. There's complications with his representatives, and there are people who are trying to broker deals that are not his reps, and that happens a lot in Portugal. So I'll update when I can, but what I can say is a lot of the news that flies around about him is not true in terms of clubs he's discussing, things like that. So I'll update when I can because it's actually very complicated. Pellistri, he hopes to come back to United this summer and play after his loan has not gone well in Spain, but he has impressed quite well for Uruguay, the national team. He had a really great showing the last time out, and hopefully he gets to play again during this break. But he would like to come back to United. He would like to earn a place in the team. Nothing has been decided for next season as of yet for him. United will not be moving for Paulo Dybala. It's probable that he'll go somewhere else. There's Inter, there's Liverpool, based on, I think, the Salah situation, and then there's Spurs. Paratici buying him at Spurs is also, or signing him at Spurs, I should say, is a real possibility and something that could happen. So the United forward situation is kind of narrowing. The list is narrowing down to some names. They're interested in Nunez, they're interested in Osimhen, but I think he's too expensive. They're interested in Harry Kane, and there was some talk of Dominic Calvert-Lewin before, but I'm not sure where that's at right now. I don't believe that the interest is solid yet or anything, but we'll see what happens. Other names, let me just take a look at my notes here for the forward position. Jonathan David, I don't believe will happen. One moment. Yeah, I'll get some updates on that. I'm expecting some more updates on that. There's wingers and people like we've talked about, Rafinha. Dembele, there's interest, but I think he's going to PSG. From what I think it's likely he goes to PSG for a couple of years. So we'll see. We will see. I think there's a lot of work to be done on the forward side and decisions to be made, which I think has a lot to do with when they get the manager actually in and sorted and decided, and they can start talking about it in more detail. So let's move on to the midfielder now. There's a lot of stories about Pogba, not all of them being covered very fairly, to be fair, but the simple fact is Pogba's leaving. He is not re-signing at United. I mean, we've been saying that for 2 years, and it seems pretty nailed on now that it's done. He's not going to stay at United. PSG are very possible. Juventus are very possible. Madrid seems becoming less possible. But Juventus and PSG, I think, have probably informal offers and discussions with Mino and him at the moment. Matic may go. Van de Beek may also be going. There really is no guarantee that he stays, even with Ten Hag. I think people need to give Ten Hag some credit there if he comes in and say he's not going to play on his biases. He's also talked about where Van de Beek would be best, which is up playing almost as a 9, and I don't think we have the availability for that role at United. I just don't. It's not how we play. And so I think there's a chance that he goes still, regardless. But either way, he's not going to be playing as one of those midfielders, especially the defensive midfielder or box-to-box midfielders at United. So United could be down to 3 midfielders in the senior team this summer with Bruno, Fred, and McTominay. There's a lot of possibilities here. Obviously, we know that Declan Rice is the number 1 choice for defensive midfield. He still is. I've also been told United asked about Tchouaméni's availability and his price as an alternate. There aren't a ton of viable alternates per United, what they're looking at. People have been talking about guys like Neves for ages, but they've just never followed up on that interest. So I'm not sure, but we'll see about that one. Names I think we can write off are Kamara, I believe is going elsewhere, and then Calvin Phillips as well. I don't think that the interest is that genuine or strong right now. It may have been before, but it seems like one we can write off from what I'm hearing. I will have more to come on this soon in terms of targets, but this is the #1 priority. I have some info on Declan Rice that I'm checking out because it's very interesting information. And I don't want to say it until I can be a little more sure, but also on a few other targets we can actually add to the list. I've been checking on and confirming whether Palhinha from Sporting is one. There have been some reports of scouting. I believe those are accurate, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I'm working on confirming whether or not Palhinha is a real target. He's a popular one, and I think one that people would like, but that one is definitely one to watch as a potential alternate. If I can confirm it, then I will. And then the other thing to look out for is Jimmy Garner coming back. Given that United may only have those 3 midfielders, they may make a move for 2 midfielders, but I think that depends on Garner. If he can earn a spot, then it's likely just the one. If not, and he goes back on loan, then they will buy 2 midfielders, almost certainly. If it is 2, look to Haidara. I talked about him quite a bit in January. Obviously, there was the stories about Rangnick, and from what I understand, there's a very, very real link and interest. In January, I said that was one that would be definitely pushed, and I think that it will be pushed in summer if United go for 2 midfielders. One would be more of the defensive position, one would be more central. The idea being they would have like a Declan Rice and Scott, and then another central midfielder and Fred, and then you've got a good rotation there. I don't know if they could afford Rice plus a second one. I don't know if, getting Rice would be dependent on Jimmy Garner making it and not buying a second midfielder. That is just speculation, so we'll see. But that's the situation on the midfielder and transfer situation. I'll update as I have more details on Palhinha and on other targets, especially in forwards and other areas. And that's what I've got for this video. So again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.